Alright, we are in Genesis 17, chapter 17, verse 15. We're going to hop back into the living word. Then God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, my princess, but her name will be Sarah, which means princess. I will bless her, and indeed I will also give you a son by her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her." Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, "Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?" And Abraham said to God, "Oh, that Ishmael, my firstborn, might live before you." But God said, "No, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son indeed. You shall name him Isaac, which means laughter, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. As for Ishmael, I have heard and listened to you. Behold, I will bless him, and I will make him fruitful, and will greatly multiply him through his descendants. He will be the father of 12 princes, chieftains, sheiks, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant, my promise, my solemn pledge, I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you this time next year." And God finished speaking with him and went up from Abraham. Then Abraham took Ishmael his son and all the servants who were born in his house, and all who were purchased with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's household, and every circumcised the flesh of their foreskin, the very same day as God had said to him. So Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised. On the very same day Abraham was circumcised, and as well as Ishmael his son. All the men servants of his household, both those born in the house and those purchased with money from a foreigner, were circumcised along with him, as the sign of God's covenant with Abraham. Chapter 18. Birth of Isaac promised. Now the Lord appeared to Abraham by the terebinth trees of Mamre in Hebron, while he was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. When he raised his eyes and looked up, behold, 3 men were standing a little distance from him. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed down with his face to the ground. And Abraham said, "My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, please do not pass by your servant without stopping to visit. Please let a little water be brought by one of my servants, and you may wash your feet, recline, and rest comfortably under the tree. And I will bring a piece of bread to refresh and sustain you. After that you may go on, since you have come to your servant." And they replied, Do as you have said." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, "Quickly get ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and bake cakes." Abraham also ran to the herd and brought a calf, tender and choice, and he gave it to the servant to butcher, and he hurried to prepare it. Then he took curds and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before the men, and he stood beside them under the tree while they ate. Then they said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" And he said, "There in the tent." He said, "I will surely return to you at this time next year, and behold, Sarah your wife will have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in years. She was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself when she heard the Lord's words, saying, "After I have become old, shall I have pleasure and delight my Lord husband, being also old?" And the Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh to herself, saying, 'Shall I really give birth to a child when I'm so old?'" Is anything too difficult or too wonderful for the Lord? At the appointed time, when the season for her delivery comes, I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son." Then Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh, because she was afraid." And he, the Lord, said, "No, but you did laugh." And the men got up from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham walked with them to send them on their way. The Lord said, "Shall I keep secret from Abraham, my friend and servant? What am I going to do? Since Abraham is destined to become a great and mighty nation, with all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. For I have known, chosen, acknowledged him as my own, so that he may teach and command his children and the sons of his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is righteous and just, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he has promised him." And the Lord said, "The outcry of the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see whether they have acted as vilely and wickedly as the outcry which has come to me indicates, and if not, I will know." Now the two men, angelic beings, turned away from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Abraham approached the Lord and said, "Will you really sweep away the righteous, those who do right, with the wicked who do evil? Suppose there are 50 righteous people within the city, and you really sweep it away, and not spare it for the sake of the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to strike the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right by executing just and righteous judgment?" So the Lord said, "If I find within the city of Sodom 50 righteous people, then I will spare the entire place for their sake." Abraham answered, "Now behold, I am but dust in origin, and ashes decided to speak to the Lord. If 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking, will you destroy the entire city for lack of 5? And he said, "If I find at least 45 righteous people there, I will not destroy it." Abraham spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose only 40 are found there." And he said, "I will not do it for the sake of the 40 who are righteous." Then Abraham said to him, "Oh, may the Lord not be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 righteous people are found there." And he said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." And he said, "Now behold, I have decided to speak to the Lord again. Suppose only 20 righteous people are found there." And the Lord said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. Then Abraham said, "Oh, may the Lord not be angry with me, and I will speak of this only once. Suppose 10 righteous people are found there." And he said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. As soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, the Lord departed, and Abraham returned to his own place. The doom of Sodom. 19. It was evening when the 2 angels came to Sodom. Lot was sitting at Sodom's city gate. Seeing them, Lot got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, "See here, my lords, please turn aside and come into your servant's house, and spend the night, and wash your feet, when you may get up early and go on your way." But they said, "No, we shall spend the night in the open plaza of the city." However, Lot strongly urged them, so they turned aside and entered his house, and he prepared a feast for them with wine, and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down to sleep, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house, all the men from every quarter. And they called out to Lot and said to him, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so that we may know them intimately." But Lot went out of the doorway to the men and shut the door after him, and said, "Please, my brothers, do not do something so wicked. See here, I have 2 daughters, and who have not known a man intimately. Please let me bring them out to you instead, and you can do as you please with them. Only do nothing to these men, because they have in fact come under the shelter of my roof for protection." But they said, "Get out of the way." And they said, "This man Lot came as an outsider to live here temporarily, and now he is acting like a judge. Now we will treat you worse than your visitors." So they rushed forward and pressed violently against Lot against Lot, and came close to breaking down the door of his house. But the angels, reached out with their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door after him. They punished the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, from the young men to the old men, so that they exhausted themselves trying to find the doorway. And the two angels, asked Lot, "Have you any others here in Sodom, a son-in-law, and your sons, and your daughters, whomever you have in the city? Take them out of here, for we are destroying this place because of the outcry for judgment against them has grown so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy and ruin it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were betrothed and legally promised to marry his daughters, and said, "Get up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy this city." But to his sons-in-law he appeared to be joking. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Get up, take your wife, 2 daughters who are here, and go, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But Lot hesitated and lingered. The men took hold of his hand, and the hand of his wife, and the hands of his 2 daughters, because the Lord was merciful to him for Abraham's sake. And they brought him out and left him outside the city with his family. When they had brought them outside, one of the angels said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you or stop anywhere in the entire valley. Escape to the mountains of Moab, or you will be consumed and swept away." But Lot said to them, "Oh no, not that place, my lords. Please listen, your servant has found favor in your sight. You have magnified your loving kindness, your mercy to me by saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountains because the disaster will overtake me and I will be killed. Now look, this town in the distance is near enough for us to flee, and it is small, with only a few people. Please let me escape there. It is not small, so that my life will be saved." And the angel said to him, "Behold, I grant you this request also. I will not destroy this town of which you have spoken. Hurry and take refuge there, for I cannot do anything to punish Sodom until you arrive there for this reason. The town was named Zoar, few and small. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained down brimstone, flaming sulfur, and fire to Sodom and on Gomorrah from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew, demolished, ended those cities, and the entire valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife, from behind him, foolishly and longingly looked back toward Sodom in an act of disobedience, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham started out early the next morning to the place where he only the day before had stood before the Lord. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward the land of the valley of the dead of the sea, and he saw, behold, the smoke of land went up like the smoke of a kiln, which is like a pottery furnace. Now God ravaged and destroyed the cities of the plain of Siddim. He remembered Abraham, and for that reason he sent Abraham's nephew Lot out of the midst of the destruction, when he destroyed the cities in which Lot had lived. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stop right there, and we'll pick back up on verse 30. God bless you, protect you, heal you, in Jesus' name, your family, and your home. Amen.